Who's actually going to get the most out of a 30-inch, 133-bottle wine fridge, and who might be better off walking away? Is it worth the price tag for someone who just wants to keep a few bottles chilled for dinner parties, or does it only make sense for the serious collector who treats their cellar like a small-scale business? Those are the questions I get asked every time I pull a wine cooler into the studio, and they're the ones that should drive your decision-making. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first started looking at the Takywep 30-inch single-zone wine refrigerator, the first thing that struck me was the capacity claim, 133 bottles. That's enough to hold a modest collection of reds, a handful of whites, and still leave room for a few sparkling bottles you keep for celebrations. For most home users, that's more than enough space to grow a collection without needing to rotate stock constantly. The other side of the coin, though, is that the unit is single-zone. That means the entire interior sits at one temperature, typically set somewhere in the sweet spot for reds or whites, but not both. If you're the kind of person who wants to store a Cabernet at 55°F and a Chardonnay at 45°F, you'll quickly hit a wall. The fridge is built from a mix of iron and stainless steel, which gives it a solid, premium feel that blends nicely with a modern kitchen or a sleek home bar. The double-layer glass door adds a touch of class, and it also helps keep the interior temperature stable when the door is opened. In real life, I've noticed that the doors don't fog up as quickly as cheaper models, which is a nice practical benefit if you have a kitchen that's already humid from cooking. The downside is weight. The unit is heavy enough that you'll need a sturdy floor and possibly help when you're moving it into place. If you're planning a freestanding setup in a small apartment, make sure the floor can handle the load, or you could end up with a wobble that becomes a nuisance. Quiet operation is a big selling point for any appliance that might live in an open-plan living space. The Takywep uses a high-efficiency compressor that, in my experience, stays in the background. You can have a dinner conversation, a movie night, or a Zoom call without hearing a constant hum. The only time you'll notice it is during the first few minutes after you turn it on or after you've opened the door a few times in quick succession. The compressor will kick in, but it's more of a soft whir than a rattling alarm. For people who want a wine fridge in a home office or a living room, that low profile is a genuine advantage. One feature that's easy to overlook until you need it is the intelligent temperature memory function. Power outages happen, especially if you live in an area with unpredictable weather, and a traditional wine fridge can lose its temperature setting, forcing you to recalibrate. This model remembers the last temperature you set, so when power returns it snaps back to the exact degree you left it at. In practice, that means you're less likely to accidentally swing the temperature too low or too high after a blackout, which could stress the wine. It's a small convenience, but it adds up for anyone who values consistency. Now, let's talk about who should actually click Add to Cart. If you're a casual enthusiast who enjoys having a selection of reds and whites on hand for dinner parties, and you'd like a dedicated space that looks good in the kitchen, this fridge ticks the boxes. The capacity is generous enough that you can keep a small library growing without needing to restock every few weeks. The quiet operation and sleek design also make it a nice visual piece. It's not just a utility, it's a conversation starter when guests walk by. For office environments that entertain clients with a glass of wine, the single-zone approach is often fine because you'll typically be serving the same style of wine throughout the day. On the flip side, there are clear reasons to skip it. First, if you're a serious collector who wants to store multiple varietals at their ideal temperatures, a single-zone unit becomes limiting. You'd either have to compromise on temperature, which can affect the aging process, or you'd need to buy a second fridge, which defeats the purpose of finding a cost-effective solution. Second, space is a practical concern. At 30 inches wide, plus the depth of the double glass door, you need a fairly sizable niche, whether you're planning a built-in cabinet or a freestanding spot. Small apartments or kitchens with tight clearances might find the footprint too demanding. Finally, the fridge doesn't come with any adjustable humidity controls or UV protective lighting, which are features that higher-end cellars include for preserving wine over longer periods. If you're thinking long-term storage years, not months, you might want to look elsewhere. What about value for money? The price.